What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Funhouse. I am super excited for tonight's show because we have Sal back in the house. For those of you watching, you can see that he's wearing a beautiful fantasy focus ski cap. It was about 80 degrees in Massachusetts today, so I can only imagine that it was similarly hot and humid in New York, and you look ridiculous.
Thank you. I want to show the world
welcome back. How was your night off?
It was a fantastic night off. I want to show the world my gift from Matthew. He gave this to just me and every other person there. So it was a lot of fun. I've been there for 3 years in a row now. The very first live show we ever did was in New York 2 summers ago, and I was there for that. And this has become like an annual thing for me now. It's a lot of fun. And Matthew's, I mean, he's great to the entire crowd. They put on a phenomenal show. And he was gracious enough to agree to come on. The whole group was last night, which was funny for me and funny to see the stunned look on your faces. And to go back and watch it today was even funnier.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun for us, not realizing what was happening at first, and then obviously a great surprise to have Matthew on the show with you. It would have been better if it was just him, but what can you do?
I tried to cut myself out as much as possible.
It would have looked a little weird if you weren't there, considering he'd be like, "What are you doing? Are you just filming us randomly, you creep?" So I guess it's a good thing you were there. Steve's here as well, although I imagine he will do far less talking tonight.
Whew, I'm spent from yesterday.
Yeah, it was tough.
You guys are lucky I'm even here.
Yeah, we don't usually make you do that much work, so we appreciate you showing up once again.
Is that luck, great. Is it luck that we're really lucky that he's here?
Yeah. No. Oh, no, not at all. It's actually bad for everyone involved, including us.
No, just the listeners. The listeners are lucky I'm here.
Oh no, they're the ones who are the worst off. Yeah, they're very disappointed to have you back or have you here again. We are going to go through some games tonight, and Sal, since you missed last night's podcast for most of it anyway, anything jump out at you as from last week before we get rolling onto week 4 here?
No, nothing really. I'm sure you guys covered it all. I listened back to the show today. The one thing I wish I could remember who put this tweet out there, but there was a tweet out. And it said, I think that the Atlanta Falcons have finally found their number 2 wide receiver, and it's Julio Jones.
It's a good one. Yeah, it's tough for Julio out there. We did talk about Julio a little bit. Steve's worried. He's shaking a little. He seemed very concerned.
That's a natural state for me. Is cowering in fear.
Well, there's a lot of things out there that are frightening, Steve. I mean, there's spiders and
that's true. You guys know.
Definitely afraid of those.
Yeah, you guys know all too well about my fear of spiders. So great. Now I got to start looking around.
All right. Well, that's it, I guess. Nothing else, Sal. That's all you got. You really brought the fire there.
Well, I know that we got a lot of games to get to, and I don't want to go back over stuff.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Sal.
All right, well, we will get right to it. We're going to start off with a Thursday game. For those of you listening or watching the podcast tonight, we will do the Thursday game. The rest of you will, you probably won't hear this. So we're going to move along.
Screw you guys who are not listening right now.
Actually, a good Thursday night game on the slate here, at least in theory. We don't know which Vikings team is going to show up, but the Vikings travel to Los Angeles to play the Rams. And we talked about this a little bit on the podcast, Sal. Adam Thielen is just dominating the targets in Minnesota right now compared to Stephon Diggs. We all thought it was going to be a little bit more of a split. We did talk about preseason how, Cousins might develop a rapport with someone, and you kind of have to wait and see who it is. Well, it looks like it's Thielen. The projections for this one through ESPN, this is Falafel Scoring, which is half-point PPR. We're going to use these to go through the games tonight. Adam Thielen at 14.9 and Stephon Diggs at 11.2. So clearly ESPN has taken notice and is now dropping Diggs down. Do you agree with those? And who do you think outperforms those numbers?
2 weeks ago, I think Diggs was the number 1 wide receiver overall, right? So I don't think you could really figure out a way to quantify that on a way. Maybe the Quant Edge could help us out with that. But I bought a lot of Thielen early in the offseason. And then towards the end of the offseason, I started buying into this possibility that Diggs would be like this big, elite receiver. So I have probably equal stock of both. So I'm very happy whichever way it goes. They're both very viable. The bigger targets, the target load seems to be going in Thielen's way. But I think the big play and the ability to get that long touchdown still sits with Diggs. So regardless of who you have a wide receiver one in both of them. March them out and be happy. So I would say Thielen, I would probably say just under the 14 for him and Diggs just over. I'd say they're both in the 12 to 13 range.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. I think Thielen just going to take a step back a little bit this week, and Diggs will probably take that next step forward. Just switching spots, basically, like Sal said, they're kind of interchangeable week in and week out. I think the Vikings as a team bounce back from that awful loss that they had against the Bills on Sunday. They do have to travel and face the Rams, but we know how beat up their secondary is. So I think that it'll be a bounce back game for their entire offense. Except for maybe Dalvin Cook. If he plays, which he is officially questionable for that game, I don't think that I would be rolling him out there on this short week. I will let him sit on my bench one more week and then roll him out when he comes back in week 5.
Would you start with Latavius Murray?
Ooh, God, no.
Probably not that either.
I would just avoid that running game altogether completely. I'm a little nervous about Dalvin Cook. Just going forward for the rest of the season, to be quite honest with you, this feels like it's one of those things that's just going to start lingering and you're going to hear a lot about it. He's going to miss time. It's one of the reasons I was nervous about him to begin with. All right, on the other side of the ball, you've pretty much been able to roll out all of your Rams on a given day. We're going to talk about Gurley, Cooks, Woods, Kupp. All of them have had great seasons. Gurley, but in this one, the projections are all down from their season averages. Obviously, Minnesota, a great defense. They didn't look so great last week, but Gurley comes projected at 18.3. He's got a 25-point average on the season. Brandon Cooks, 12.2 projection with a 14.56 average on the season. Robert Woods, 11.9 projection with a 15.2 average on the season. Cooper Kupp, an 11.3 projection on a 13.13 average on the season. So, Steve, I ask you, is it justified to bring all those guys down? Or are you rolling them all out again?
I think so. I think it's just I think both. The answer to the question is yes to both. I think it's justified that they're all, have their projections down a little bit going up against this Rams defense on the road, short week, all that stuff. But then they're also the offense that moves at one of the quicker paces in the league. So there is enough opportunity to go around for all of these guys still. There will be the weeks where they don't put up as many points as they are projected to. And it's going to be the weeks like this when they go up against a good defense. I know a lot of people are going to be looking down on the Vikings, but they are a good defense. They will be able to come back from what we just saw from them on Sunday. So, yeah, I would knock them all down just a little bit, but that's not going to stop me from starting any of them.
Yeah, and I agree with Steve. And it's what I'm going to say is kind of weird because maybe the fanball guys are going to get mad at me, but Jared Goff is my landmine quarterback for the week because I think that this Vikings defense is going to come out and just try to make up for what they didn't do on Sunday. But I cannot leave any of the weapons on my bench because I don't know who it's going to be. Gurley's a start every week. I mean, we don't even need to discuss that. But out of the wide receivers, Robert Woods, who's the guy who just dog throw last week, Kevin, you asked me which one of the guys I thought was going to be his week. It was Robert Woods, 2 touchdowns. Great. I had him in a lot of DFS lineups, which was fantastic. I can't risk sitting one of those guys if I have them because they could be the guy that has that blow-up game. So for me, as crazy as it sounds, I'm going to start all 3 wide receivers and the running back and not Goff.
Goff projected at 15.8. He has not scored less than 17.2 on the season. A big week last week with 25.6 and the 3 touchdowns. So I tend to agree with you there, but we are going to move on to the Sunday slate. All right, before we kick off the Sunday slate, I just want to remind everyone that we are part of the Gridiron Experts group. You can head over to gridironexperts.com and check out all the stuff they have on that website. Great projections, rankings, articles, everything you could possibly want in a nice, easy-to-read format. And you can check out their store where they got fantasy football gear. Sal wears a T-shirt every single day, and I'm sure that he would love to have some of the great T-shirts from their site. So, head over there and check out all their stuff and follow us on their feed. If you're listening to this on the Fantasy Football Funhouse podcast feed, check out the Gridiron Experts feeds. They got 3 different podcasts on there now, and all good stuff. So check them out. All right, let's head over to the Sunday games. The Jets will take on the Jaguars in Jacksonville this weekend, and Jaguars did nothing, absolutely nothing last week at all against Tennessee, who's a defense that, I mean, looked great, but you're not really a vaunted defense. It's not one you're scared of, really,
it's
right?
Not the Colts, that's for sure.
It's certainly not the Colts. That's for damn sure. The interesting thing about this, Fournette coming back in this, obviously he's questionable, but looks like on track to play so far this week. Projected at a 14.8. He has 7 total points on the season. Granted, he missed the last 2 games, so you're talking about 1 game, but not a good start for him for the season. Steve, does he get 14.8? Does he recover and become an elite running back in this one?
I think he does. I think he comes back. I think they were smart holding him out the extra week last week, even though it was kind of a late scratch. It seemed like he was trending towards playing and then ended up not. I think that he is going to come back, and we saw last week they don't want to have to rely on Blake Bortles too much. Blake Bortles, I think, disappointed a lot of people because of the week before. He had the good game when Yeldon was in, when Fournette was out. Everyone's talking about how they open up the passing game, blah, 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 blah. They go up against the Titans, and he lays a big fat egg. So this game has got the lowest total of all the games on the slate at 38.5 points. Not going to be a lot of scoring. I think the Jaguars are going to rely heavily on that defense, and when they have the ball, they're going to let Fournette get back on track and really run with it. So I think he's going to get a ton of carries. I think he's going to get in the end zone. I think he's going to get over that 14-point projection.
All right, and over on the other side of the ball, it's a running back that I'm interested in, Sal, and you typically have our Jets perspective. Isaiah Crowell has been an interesting case so far this season. He's projected to get 8 points in this one, 8 points even, but he's averaging 15.1 on the season.
Yeah, Isaiah Crowell has benefited from two touchdown games. His yardage over the last 2 weeks totals 90 yards total between the 2 games, 90 yards. The Jaguars, traditionally, everybody says you don't want to pass on them, attack them on a run, but the Jaguars, after giving up that 68-yard touchdown run to Saquon Barkley, no other running back has totaled more than 57 yards over the last 2 weeks, and Derrick Henry took 18 carries to do that last week. Take out that 68-yard run, and they're giving up 2.9 yards to all running backs included, and that was the one and only touchdown, both receiving and rushing, from a running back this year. So I understand those numbers from Crowell. He is touchdown dependent, and I don't think he gets in the end zone this week. So I'm going to say under. I'd much rather a Bilal Powell coming out of the backfield catching passes this week than Isaiah Crowell.
Ooh, Bilal Powell, huh?
It ain't pretty, but it's necessary.
It ain't pretty at all. He one big game for him so far, 16.5. He did have 7 and 7.3 in the other 2 games, so he's been at least a little consistent. So there's a good floor there. So maybe we can trust your advice on this. Hey, you're getting pretty good at this fantasy football stuff, Sal.
You should write somewhere.
I like to read.
Do you read anything about DFS, and is there any way for you to help me with DFS?
I'm not sure that even I can help you, or that even the people over at Quant Edge can help you. But I'll tell you where to go and see what you do with it. TheQuantEdge.com has the tools you need to play like a pro. With their lineup optimizer, injury tool, wide receiver cornerback matchups, and head-to-head tool, you'll be armed with everything you need to win. I know you don't know what that means, Kevin, but it's good. Make up to 150 lineups in seconds. See matchups to exploit and compare players to help you make the right decision that you may be on the fence about at thequantedge.com. You'll get exclusive access to their industry experts, articles, podcasts, and the TQE community by participating in the premium membership chat. Here at the Fantasy Football Fun House, we have a special deal for our loyal listeners. If you use promo code, it's 3 Fs, Kevin. 3 Fs and an unhouse.
I'm not sure. Can you go through that again?
Funhouse. You will get $10 off the first month subscription. So go there now. FFF Unhouse. $10 off. And start to win some money now, immediately.
I'd really like to do that someday, win money. That'd be nice. So maybe I can do that.
Someday never comes.
But you know what? If I'm not going to win money, the one thing I can hope for this weekend is for the Patriots to beat the Dolphins. We really need a win. I never, yeah, you rarely hear me say that, but it's a big game for the Patriots. Sadly enough, in Week 4, Dolphins will travel to New England, so I will be at this game. And we're going to start on the Patriots side of the ball. Rex Burkhead goes on IR today with a neck injury, so he is done for the season. They re-signed Kenyon Barner for some odd reason, but really all eyes
in a fishbowl too.
really all eyes are falling to Sony Michel in this one. He got a lot of touches last week. They were, many people suggesting that they force-fed him the ball. He's projected at a 12.8 in this one, Steve. He had a decent game last week. I thought he was better than people. We talked about it, really. There was no holes for him to run through. So it's hard to judge him on that. But do you think he can, with some more volume, extra week, knowing that he's going to be the guy this week and, really hopefully they can solidify their offense a little bit more. Can he outperform that 12.8 projection?
I think it's going to maybe be one more week. And I just think that this first week coming back, I think James White is going to get a lot of play this week. I know that the Dolphins, they're 3-0. They don't typically have a lot of luck in Foxborough. They have lost their last 9 games there by an average of 18 points. So they are not very good when they have to travel north into New England. So I think that despite all of that, I think it's going to be a little bit of a closer game. We know of the struggles that New England has had so far. So I think that James White is going to get a lot of play. He's going to get some carries. We know that he's going to get a lot of passes, a lot of targets out of the backfield with Rex Burkhead not there anymore to take any of those away. I think that gives him a little bit of an uptick. So I think maybe just one more week for Sony Michel, but you never like to see people get injured, but when someone does, an opportunity opens up even more for somebody else. I think he is going to run with it. And by the end of this season, he's going to be somebody you can rely on as a weekly starter.
You want a prediction? Steve?
Sure, I'll take a prediction.
Sony Michel will get 20 carries this week.
Woo! That's hefty.
And still go under. That's sad.
20 carries.
If he gets 20 carries,
I don't know, but he's going to get
20 carries. He's going over 12.8. There's no question about that.
I think that this is it. I mean, I think that they brought him along slowly. Unfortunately, like you said, with Burkhead out of the way, they worked him in last week a little bit more, and I think that the offense is not clicking the way they want it. So time for it to change something up, and I think that they go with James White will still be there. He does what he does, but I think it's going to be all day Michel out of the backfield and then just White lining up a little bit at wide receiver.
Yeah, I could see them going very run heavy in this one. And for all the people that are knocking Sony Michel, besides what we said where there weren't a lot of holes, if you watch that game, you could see he was getting stuff behind the line. But on top of that, remember the guy missed most of training camp with a knee injury. I mean, he's really, and he's a rookie. So let's, I think I agree with you, Sal. I think this is a breakout game for him. Steve, I get what you're saying, it being one more week away, but I think this is it for him because I think they really want to utilize him, and they need to get this game. They need to get out of this game with a win, and Edelman, comes back the following week. So I think this would be a good one to go run heavy with. All right, Kenny Stills, he's the roller coaster. Sal, he's up, he's down, he's left, he's right, he's loop-de-loops. He's projected at a 9.9 in this one. He's really all they got. I mean, unless you want to.
Did you just describe Amari Cooper?
There's that Spider-Man meme. They're just pointing at each other.
I mean, unless you want to put your faith in Jakeem Grant. I know you're a big Jakeem Grant fan, but I don't know that you can trust what he's been doing. He's really
2 touchdowns last week. 2.
He's pretty much all they got. So does Kenny Stills get more than his 9.9 projection?
Tell you what, Jakeem Grant's exciting to watch, but he's untrustworthy as a fantasy asset. But what was it? What is it? The projection?
9.9.
9.9. 9 times.
The Patriots are allowing a lot of receptions to wide receivers this year, and nobody on the Dolphins gets a lot of receptions. But that could change this week. I'm going to go Kenny Stills going to sneak in for a touchdown. They're going to be playing catch-up in this game. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think the running backs are anybody I want to touch on Miami this week. So, why not Kenny Stills to get a touchdown late on a garbage time type of thing? So I'll say over.
Yeah, my only caveat to that is Danny Amendola, who hasn't done really much this season. It's a return game, revenge game, whatever you want to
Revenge
call him.
game.
You know, he's projected at 8.5, which is amazing considering he hasn't scored more than 5.7 all season and is averaging 3.5 catches a game. But I could see him catching the touchdown that you're talking about. So that's the only caveat.
I'm going to tell you what the NFL's missing, what they need to do. Danny Amendola needs to warm up as a Dolphin, and then when the kickoff starts, like WWE style, he comes out, bam, he's in a Patriots uniform, and bam, he catches 2 touchdowns for the Pats, and it's all over.
I'd be all for it. That would make my day. All right, Eagles are traveling to Tennessee to take on the Titans, who looked like that vaunted defense against the Jaguars last week. I don't know that they're going to have the same kind of success against the Eagles, but I want to ask you, Sal, because you've kind of been all over them, throughout the offseason and into the season so far. The Eagles running backs, obviously you have to worry about Jay Ajayi and you have to monitor his status and whether or not he's going to play. ESPN thinks he's going to play. They have him at a 10.1. Meanwhile, Corey Clement, who had an absolute dud last week when people were expecting a lot out of him, is projected to get 4.7. And Wendell Smallwood, who had a great game last week, is projected to get 0.3.
So I'm pretty sure that Corey
Give
Coleman
me the over.
I'm pretty sure Corey Coleman had a better yardage day than Smallwood, but didn't get the touchdown.
Not Coleman. I'm pretty sure Corey Coleman did not do anything.
I say Corey Coleman. I'm pretty sure Coleman might have had a better day, actually. Clement had more yardage, I believe, but just didn't get the touchdown. But Smallwood looked better. You're right. That's the guy from a couple of years ago was all over that Smallwood. But here's my opinion. I don't feel like anybody has seized the opportunity there with the Ajayi being hampered. I think Ajayi actually did look good when he was there. So if he's back, I expect him to have a good day. I expect him to be the lead back, and going forward, he'd be the only guy I would trust on a weekly basis as long as he's healthy.
Interestingly enough, they had the exact same yardage, Sal. They both had 56 yards, but Smallwood only had 10 carries to Clement's 16. So obviously far more productive, especially when you throw in the touchdown.
I was disappointed.
I'll take it over on all 3 of them.
All 3 are going to go over. All right.
Yep.
I like it.
Get up, fool.
Corey Davis is projected to get 10.2. Steve, please tell me my Corey Davis shares are going to improve this week.
The thing they have going for them is that the way to move the ball against the Eagles is through the air. It is not running the ball. And they don't have a tight end. And Marcus Mariota is going to be starting this week. So no hesitation there. He's going to be in. I don't know what that means for Corey Coleman. He's obviously the best passing option that they have.
Corey Coleman.
Corey Davis. Man. I don't know what that means for Corey Davis. He's still getting a nice target share. It's just he's not really doing much with it. Marcus Mariota's looked so bad. 10.5.
But he feels better. Vrabel said he feels better.
That's good. I mean, that's good.
It's good. What you want to hear, right?
I don't know. I'm going to go slightly under with Corey Davis.
Mariota's nickname on the show is Numsy.
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 We're coining the new nickname. See, that's not your best nickname. We've gotten
Numsy?
The last couple of years we've gotten Hot Garbage and Tiny Dancer, and Numsy, I don't know.
It's all about how you say it. Numsy.
Numsy. All right, I like it. I'm bad. Maybe I'm a little more on board. We'll try it out for a couple. We'll try it out for a couple weeks. We'll move on from this game though. The Texans are traveling to the defensive-minded Colts. The
defensive juggernaut that is
the stifling defense of the Colts, and I'm very nervous here because a guy that is interesting to me. I think we all kind of liked him coming into the season. He seemed to present good value, but hasn't really been uber productive. Is Lamar Miller? He's slated to get projected to get 12.5 in this one. Steve, do you think that this is a game that he can finally break out? I mean, obviously, with the Colts defense being what it is, the answer is probably not. But
yeah, I'm going to have to go with that as well. Probably not, because year after year after year, except for his rookie year, Lamar Miller has been the guy that is going to have all the volume and just continually does nothing with that opportunity. And so, he's had these first 6 games. A lot of people were excited about him because of his draft value, with Donta Foreman not being able to play with recovering from the Achilles injury. and he's been decent, but he's not been anything special. And that offense basically as a whole, except for the last couple weeks, and Will Fuller hasn't been anything special. So I think it's the same old story for Lamar Miller. I would take the under again because I don't trust them. The Colts are favored in this game because of their defense.
The Colts are favored.
They're favored.
The Texans are 0-3. God.
The Indianapolis Colts are giving up the second least points to opposing wide receivers, Sal. Second least.
Somehow I'm not afraid to start both Fuller and Hopkins this week.
That's why I didn't ask about them. Obviously, you're going to roll those guys out. Indianapolis not as great against the run. They are 10th most fantasy points against in that category. So Lamar Miller, a little bit better chance to get over that. But I'm with you.
10-point Miller.
Old 10-point Miller. 11.48 and 11.6. He had 10 carries for 10 yards last week. So, obviously the reception and the receiving touchdown helped you. But on the other side of the ball, T.Y. Hilton, again, another roller coaster type guy so far this season. We've seen Andrew Luck's arm look like a wet noodle at times and not really be able to throw the ball downfield very well. Obviously, that's one of T.Y. Hilton's specialties, Sal. He is projected to get 12.9 in this one. What do you think? Is this one of those big games for him, or is it another dud?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a dud, but it's probably right around where he's going to finish. I'm going to go over. I'm going to say that Luck's going to get a little bit more comfortable this week, 4 weeks in now and getting comfortable. But like you said, Hilton's only averaging 10.5 yards per reception, which is not what you typically expect from him. He's a downfield guy. He's a big touchdown play guy. So maybe they get back to that. Maybe they lulled people to sleep with Jacoby Brissett's Hail Mary last week, making you think that Andrew couldn't throw the ball downfield. And this week he comes out, throwing the ball all over the place. Fireworks.
I will take the over.
Can you do that again?
Over there.
I think if you tried a million times, you'd never be able to do it the same way twice. It's like a snowflake.
I would just like to say that I believe my theory of Eric Ebron's success is ringing true, that Jack Doyle's presence was contributing to Eric Ebron's success. And now that Jack Doyle missed last week, Eric Ebron had to play the entire game, not practicing already this week.
But did you see the report?
I mean, you're just smiling about a guy's injury, Steve. It's just not right.
He's a low-life piece of garbage, Steve. But
yeah, it's really. I mean, you're not a very nice person.
I'm sure you attacked Ebron last night. The guy had multiple red zone targets. He was fouled on. He got up looking for flags. I had to agree with him on both of them.
Of course.
Don't you worry about a thing. He'll be fine.
In week 5 when he comes back.
All right. Definitely keep an eye on that situation.
Make sure he plays. Get your swoop stock.
Get your swoop in.
Swoopy?
Swoopy.
All right. The Bills, the high-flying Josh Allen-led Bills are traveling to good old Green Bay to take on the Packers. We're not going to talk about the quarterback because I don't know that anyone's expecting Josh Allen to do the same thing again. Especially with the 2 rushing touchdowns, that's sort of fluky. But LaShawn McCoy is expected to come back in this game, and he's projected to get 10.4. Steve, I know you're very down on LaShawn McCoy right now. We've been down on the Buffalo offense in general, and everyone is for good reason. McCoy has only had in his 2 starts this year 2.2 or 2.6 points and 8.8 in the first 2 weeks of the season. But with Allen in, maybe there's a spark. Does he get over that 10.4 number?
I'm going to say no, not this week. We talked about it earlier in the week that we think that Josh Allen might be a little bit more of a boost than originally thought to this Bills offense. Like we said, Chris Ivory had a really good game, so that was promising for when McCoy comes back. I think the Bills would be smart to not just put him back in and have him run 25 times a game and catch 10 balls out of the backfield. I think they'd probably be good to ease him back in a little bit, use Chris Ivory a little more. So I will say under, but I do think that Josh Allen will help McCoy as the season goes along. The rib injury just scares me a little too much. I think that they should take it easy with him. I don't think he's going to get a full workload this first week back.
Can you guys hear that? Could you hear it? That's the Bills coming back to earth this week and crashing into the ground.
You don't think they can keep that momentum going?
No, this is going to be ugly. Very, very ugly. I know I felt the same way, obviously, about the Vikings playing them last week, but this is going to get messy.
Buffalo Bills are dead middle of the pack against wide receivers, giving up fantasy points, and Geronimo Allison is projected to get 8.4 in this one, Sal. He has a season low of 9.4. We talked about it on the last show, how certain offenses can sustain 3 wide receivers, and I don't know that they even need to sustain 3 wide receivers in Green Bay because I think Allison's made himself the number 2. Do you think that he's going to continue that and outproduce the 8.4 projection?
I was going to do like a real juvenile joke when you said number 2, but I'll let it go. Yeah, I don't know, because actually over the first 3 weeks, his percentage has gone down from 21 points. His target percentage from 21.6 to 14.3 to 8.9. He's managed to do well with the percentage going down, but they're not using him as much. While I think that he's inserted himself as the number 2 from a point scoring standpoint, I don't know that the Packers coaching staff looks at him as the number 2 yet. So I think Randall Cobb is still running those routes and still seeing the targets. Above him, Allison has just performed better. I'm sure you want to get into the running backs with Steve. I think this would be more of a running back game for there. I think that this is a big Aaron Jones game, and I think that because Christian McCaffrey's off and I need to use him this week.
Great.
I could use Aaron Jones as a Christian McCaffrey replacement myself. Buffalo is, I'm looking for them right now, 5th worst against running backs. So you could be right there. Steve, are you rolling out Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, or Tymo? Real quick.
Believe it or not, I don't own a lot of Aaron Jones this year.
But what a surprise.
I cannot even believe it.
I will not be
owned all 3. Who would you roll out?
If I owned all 3.
Yep, and you can only start one.
You know what? You guys, I'm going to stick with Jamal Williams. I think the Packers are going to have a lead this week. I think that the game is going to flow towards a little more Jamal Williams. Give me Jamal Williams over Aaron Jones.
If they have a lead, it absolutely supports Aaron Jones because he is the guy that can't block for Aaron Rodgers, but they won't need him to. They'll just pound the rock.
It's going to be Jamal Williams.
Steve, did I hear you refer to Jamal Williams as a plotter on the review show? Who supports a running back and then calls
Hey, what's wrong with plotters?
Everybody loves a good plotter.
Got something wrong. Got something against
plotters. Was a mutter.
Well, that's right. His plotter was a plotter. His father was a plotter.
Right. Let's keep going. The Lions are going to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. The Cowboys are absolutely pitiful. The only person on the Cowboys team worth talking about is Ezekiel Elliott, who's projected to get 20.3 in this one. Interestingly enough, he has a season average of 15.5, Steve. So they're expecting 5 points over the average for him. I know he's been good, but do you see that kind of improvement given the lack of talent around him?
Yeah, I do. Yes, I do.
Great. You know what? You're not the best in the business for no reason.
That's right. Well, what more do you want from me?
Sal, you want to jump in with anything there?
Yes, I do. So what is he leading the league in rushing, I believe, at this point, right? And the Lions have given up 150 yards and 6.3 yards per carry to the backfields this year. So
3rd worst fantasy points against for the running backs.
Yeah, it's going to be a big day for Zeke. And a recommendation on Monday nights, because we don't do anything on Monday nights, right before the Monday Night Football games, Warren Sharp does a live Periscope where he breaks things down analytically. He broke down the Cowboys and the fact that, about how they're passing too much to Ezekiel Elliott now at this point. But they're doing it on 3rd down instead of 1st down when it clearly shows it's more successful on 1st down. The NFL numbers are there, and it's a stark difference. The Cowboys have now gone so far to the other side with passing the ball to Zeke that they don't throw anything to their wide receivers, especially on 3rd down in long distances. This offense is completely screwed up. There's not a guy you want to own outside of Zeke, and I'd be interested as the season wears on to see how much he can take because they're just using him 98.3% of touches out of the backfield to Zeke. we'll have to see if he can last.
I mean, they're not stupid. What else are they going to do? They're going to give the ball to anyone else. So
yeah, they have no other options.
They really have to just keep going with him. And I thought for sure when Sal started that whole little speech that he was going to plug something he was doing. So it was nice to hear him plug something.
I plugged that guy who's way more intelligent and better at what he does than me.
Anyone he plugged a guy that was anyway. So never mind. We'll continue
Sorry,
on
Warren.
Kerryon Johnson is projected to get 8.3 in this one. He had the big game last week. First Lions running back to get over 100 yards since what was it, Thanksgiving in 2015, I think it was.
I thought it was when the actual Pilgrims and Indians program.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I guess what do you think, Sal? Do you think he's going to do it again, or is this Kerryon Johnson's team? Steve and I weighed in on this earlier, in the review show. Both of us thought that he's the more explosive guy and needs to be getting the touches.
Yeah, I think if you watch that game, he really looked like the best rookie running back I think I might have seen this year so far. He looked fantastic at the game, finally being given the opportunity. In the 3 games, his percentage has gone up 38, 41, and 45. So the big stat you saw this week was, it's not Kerryon's backfield yet because Blunt outsnapped him, but it's rising every week. And now that you saw what he did this week, I think the coaching staff over there has to be smart enough to realize he needs to be on the field more, and he needs to get more touches, and he needs to be worked in. I think as the year goes on, he becomes the first 2 down guy. Riddick's position never changes. His role never changes. And I think Blunt starts to get phased out and becomes more of a goal line, short yardage guy as the year goes on. But I liked what I saw a lot. I'm very disappointed I have 0 stock anywhere of Kerryon Johnson, both redraft and dynasty.
I was listening to the Dynasty Dummies podcast from earlier this morning, and they had mentioned that with this particular offense, they thought they could see, potentially this starting to shift a little bit. The Lions have always been a very pass-heavy team. So for those of us who are heavily invested in the Stafford, Tate, Jones, and even Golladay, everyone loves Golladay these days. Is that a concern for you, Sal, that they may start to go more of a running game, run heavy, and phase out the passing a little bit?
From a dynasty standpoint, I don't think it'll happen as much this year. I think maybe it'll start to become a little bit more balanced. I think that'll be better for Stafford because I think longevity-wise and health-wise, it's going to be better for Stafford because very few quarterbacks get battered like that guy. I think beyond this year, it spells bad things for Marvin Jones. I don't know how much longer Marvin Jones will be in Detroit after this year because I think Golladay will just assert himself, and Tate is just the more reliable pass catcher in that offense. So for this year, it doesn't concern me much. I think that all 3 guys will remain relevant, especially with Marvin Jones' red zone target percentage that he has. I think he stays relevant because he does score touchdowns. But yeah, going forward in Dynasty, I think it benefits Stafford to keep him healthy longer.
All right, the Fitz magic finally fizzled a little bit, although he still put up 400 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he did throw 3 picks. We keep waiting for this guy to turn into a pumpkin. He showed some pumpkin-like qualities, but didn't quite go all the way, so not sure what he's going to do in this one. But interestingly for me, in this particular matchup against the Bengals, Godwin projected at 9.2, and Deshaun Jackson back down to 7.5, Steve. So Chris Godwin projected to get more points than Deshaun Jackson in this one. Do you think Godwin's taken over as the number 2?
I think he has in terms of the amount of opportunity that he's getting. He's got more targets, I believe, the last 2 weeks than Deshaun Jackson has. But, Deshaun Jackson the week before last had the big touchdown, so his numbers looked a little better. But, yeah, Godwin has definitely inched his way above as a more reliable floor option as opposed to D. Jackson. Then, of course, you've got Mike Evans there. I do worry about both of these guys, D-Jax and Godwin, going up this week with Tampa Bay going to Chicago. They are playing the number 1 defense so far, and so that definitely worries me a little bit. I think we've been waiting for the pumpkin to happen for a few weeks now. This is definitely a spot where you would expect it to happen, but we'll just have to see what Fitzmagic has up his sleeve. I would probably go under on those projections, though, for those 2 guys that you mentioned, but maybe over on Mike Evans. I think he might. If the Bucks get down, I think that Fitzpatrick might focus in on Evans. He tends to tend to zero in from time to time. And so I think Mike Evans could end up having another really big game. But I think those other guys will falter a little bit this week.
You guys
The
want a
Bengals-
prediction?
Just real quick before you predict, because I don't want this to change your prediction, but the Bengals give up the 6th most points to fantasy quarterbacks, Sal.
They're playing the Bears.
They're playing
The Bears. I'm sorry. Why do I keep saying the Bengals?
I don't know.
Well, one's like a tiger, and the other one's not.
Yeah.
My prediction is that Khalil Mack actually rips the beard clean off of Fitzpatrick's face, the entire beard, right off, because
The whole beard.
that guy's just an animal. Every time I watch him play, I just want to go kick John Gruden right in the nards. Yeah, I think this is a tough spot for Fitzpatrick. Our good friend Matthew Berry predicted last night that will take till week 6, but by week 6, Jameis Winston will be back as the quarterback in Tampa. He made reference to the fact that while Fitzpatrick has been very successful downfield, if you go back and look at Winston's percentages over the last 3 years, he's been the most successful downfield quarterback in the NFL. So we'll have to see what goes on going forward from here. I think that this is his game to put up or shut up. I think what the Buccaneers said, listen, we're going to give you that one more game beyond Winston's suspension. If you go out and you do it, if you go out and you beat the Bear Girls, then you can keep the job for another week. But, we'll have to see what happens. I think it's a tough spot. He, like you said, those 3 interceptions that came pretty quickly, he started to look like the Fitzpatrick from the Bills years and stuff like that. So I'd be under on everybody in that offense this week, especially Peyton Barber.
Ooh, people still starting him?
God, I hope not. I'd like to see Ronald Jones eventually. It would be nice if they'd just play the kid.
Yeah, I mean, they could at least dress him.
Play the boy.
Do something.
Play the boy.
I started a lot of teams, or not started. I have a lot of teams where I have Allen Robinson and Corey Davis as my 2 wide receivers. I took them a little later. I thought it was good value. It has not been good value so far this year. Allen Robinson is projected to get 11.7 in this one. He only outproduced that in week 2, where he got 10 receptions for 83 yards, 13.3 points. He has not found the end zone yet, Sal. Is he going to get off the Schneid here?
Schneider. So here's an interesting stat from our friend Rich Rebar. The Chicago Bears this season have given up a touchdown to every wide receiver 1 that they have faced. So
that is an interesting stat.
If not here, where? If not now, when? So I think that this is probably a tough game to keep him out of the end zone. So I think that yes, he will get off the schneid.
Mitchell Trubisky will find a way.
He always does, doesn't he, Steve? You're a big Trubisky fan, which just you do hate him an awful lot. It's quite impressive.
It's not personal.
It's not?
No, not at all. I'm sure he's a great guy.
Doesn't he have a schnazzy facial hair though? It's pretty schnazzy.
Yeah,
I mean,
he does.
He looks like Tony Romo. I noticed last week. You guys think
he's got a little Tony Romo in him?
Yeah.
Right. This is interesting to browse a little bit, but you know what? Ever since we started this podcast, people have been asking us for advice, guys, and usually, or at least in most cases, for Steve, they ask him who to bet on. I don't know why. We still haven't figured this quite out yet, but
they go with the opposite.
Yeah, that's it. Actually, you know what? That's a good point, Sal.
Maybe bad.
They're using him to get the wins through his negativity. But the truth is, they must know then that he has absolutely no idea who's going to win. But if you can use Steve's advice to do the opposite, then you got to go over to my bookie. You got to remember that who you're betting on is just as important as who you're betting with. That's why we always tell people to bet with my bookie. Trust me, they are the best bet this season. They've been in business for years, have great reviews online, and their mobile site is easy to use. We only recommend this service to listeners that we use, as evident by the Gridiron Experts and the TQE. Both great services. My bookie is just as good as those. That's why we're urging you to make your way to my bookie, because when you win, they pay. They have in-game live betting, over-unders on fantasy points scored, and the most rewarding player perks in the business. So, because they are so busy right now with new bettors, they want to give everyone the best possible service. So what they're going to do now is, if you're willing to deposit after 7 p.m. Eastern, they'll give you an additional $25 free play on deposits over $100. And on top of that, they're gonna match you dollar for dollar on your first deposit. So you got to use promo code FFL in order to get the match dollar for dollar. And if you do it after 7 p.m. and Eastern time, of course, you can get that free play by using promo code FFL25. So get in there, Sal. FFL25. Make sure you do it after 7 p.m. I know you're a night owl these days, so you got plenty of time to do that afterwards.
I tried to do it. I kept writing 52 LFF. I was all messed up.
Yeah, it's really tough. FFL25. So get over to mybookie.com and you play, you win, you get paid. All right.
At the risk of upsetting Steve, because I know we're pressed for time always.
Always.
Are you guys aware of what's unfolding right now with Rashard Matthews?
Yes, I was staring at my phone just now.
So Rashard Matthews, Kevin, has asked for his release, and it sounds like the Titans have released him. And he is planning on moving on due to lack of targets. So 2 questions. Do you think that this means good things for Taywan Taylor? And would you run out and add him? His snap percentage in week 1 was 13, week 2, 41, week 3, 52. It's gone up steadily. He's obviously going to be a room for him. And where would you guess Rashard Matthews would land? Does Dallas finally go and get themselves a decent wide receiver, or is this a guy who wants to go somewhere to a team that has a chance to win?
So first of all, you've heard me beg and plead for Corey Davis to get more targets and more catches. Right? You can't even get the ball to the guy who's got the most talent on the field. Taywan Taylor is the guy I'd probably keep an eye on, but I'm not running out to add him.
He's like the next coming to Jakeem Grant.
Hey. Listen, in Dynasty, a lot of people probably already own him, and that's great. I'd hang on to him if he is available and you have a deep league, go stash him for sure. But he's not a guy I'm going to expect a ton out of until I start seeing that offense look a little bit better.
I'd say second half of the year. I agree with you.
On the flip side, Rashard Matthews hasn't done anything this season. I know he was hurt coming in, and obviously he's asking for a release so that he can get more targets. But where is he going to go that he's going to get more targets?
Buffalo.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I'm not super excited about Rashard Matthews either, so I'm probably waiting to see on both of these guys.
Like I said, I don't run anywhere. Definitely not to pick up any Titans wide receivers, and I'm not going to pick up Rashard Matthews probably wherever he goes anyway. So,
what if he lands in Dallas, Steve? Where there's plenty of room for targets.
But they all go to Zeke.
Even though Dak doesn't throw him anywhere past 10 yards.
Exactly.
Steve, or Sal, let me ask you this. At this point in his career, is Rashard Matthews any more exciting or better than Allen Hurns?
No, I think he's a complimentary wide receiver in an offense. No, I agree with you.
He's another wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 in an offense that has like 6 of them right now.
Did they literally extend him like right before the season started?
Yeah, I don't know. That was Delaney Walker. Did they do Matthews too?
Yeah, they did it, and then he came off of the puppy list.
The puppy list. All right. Well, the Seahawks showed signs of life last week against those. Yeah,
shave your heads.
There was lice and life. They did play the Dallas, so I don't know if that has something to do with the lice or not. But they travel to Arizona to play the Cardinals. My boy Tyler Lockett has caught a touchdown in every single game. He is only projected to get 8.1 points in this. Steve, I know he's not going to catch a touchdown every game. He's not going to finish the season with 16 touchdowns. So
that's true. I mean, never say never.
Well, it's possible, I suppose. Is this the week? We've heard rumors that Baldwin is practicing and might actually play this week. So I guess 2 questions for you. If Baldwin does play, does that significantly hurt Lockett's value, or has he shown enough in these first 3 weeks that Russell Wilson maybe depends on him a little more now? And then secondly, is this the week where he doesn't catch the touchdown and his numbers really aren't all that great?
I will answer the second question first and say that, yes, I do think this is the week.
You don't remember the first question, do you?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. I will say that.
I gave him too much work. I overloaded him.
I'm like a goldfish, and anything after 10 seconds, I'm blanking on. Tyler Lockett. I don't think he's going to get the touchdown this week, in part because I think Doug Baldwin is going to be back. And also, Arizona has not allowed a touchdown to a wide receiver at all this year. So they've actually been pretty good on the perimeter. And even though Tyler Lockett does get a lot of work out of the slot, that might not matter as much to him. I do think Doug Baldwin coming back is going to eat into his workload a little bit. Now, I also think that Tyler Lockett has done enough in this time that Doug Baldwin has been out that he will become a very viable piece of this offense. I don't think he's going to just go away. I think that Doug Baldwin and Tyler Lockett can work very well together as the two wide receivers there. So I don't think he's going away by any means, but I do think this is the week that he ends up falling off of the touchdown hype train, touchdowns every single week. I don't think it's going to keep going. And I think Doug Baldwin's going to come back, even though I really wish that they would just hold him out one more week. Just one more week.
You literally just put Sal to sleep. It was impressive to see the sleeping that he just.
I almost went in the bedroom to get my Zipa.
Oh, that's good.
I don't want you guys to get me snoring.
Sal,
you're done. You are done.
Let's perk you up here a little. All right, let's perk you up here a little bit with Chris Carson, who had a huge day last week. 32 carries, over 100 yards. And he's projected in this one to get 12.4. Do we think that he has wrestled the job away from the rookie completely and he's the guy, or is it back
32 carries? I would say it's his job, right? 32 carries. No one has given up more rushing touchdowns this year than Arizona. 5 rushing touchdowns, 6 total to running backs. Carson's in my lineup absolutely this week. I think they do start to look for a little bit more balance out of offense so that Russell Wilson can live through 16 games. I'm excited to see what the offense looks like with Baldwin back. The offensive line is not great, and Russell Wilson has had to run around as typical and make things happen. But with the emergence of Lockett, now that he's gotten a chance to play, Baldwin coming back being old reliable and looking like it's going to be Carson's backfield, I'm very excited as a guy who has a lot of Russell Wilson stock to see what this means for Russell Wilson.
And you didn't even mention Disley.
Yeah, he came back to earth, right? It was all Vanette last week. I didn't even remember hearing his name. A buddy of mine picked up Disley. He's like, of course it's all Vanette. I picked up Disley this week.
That's right.
So, but I think Carson goes over that number this week.
All right, on the other side of the ball, we know Josh Rosen is going to get the start this week, and hopefully that injects some life into this offense because they've been absolutely terrible. David Johnson projected to get 16.2 in this one. He's high on the season of 15.2, Sal. Is this the week he finally breaks out and stops getting yelled at on the sideline by his coaches?
I mean, I was furious when I saw that on Twitter, and I wrote about it. But that's just embarrassing. That is Browns level coaching right there. To take on third down and the biggest play of the game, we have to tell our stud veteran running back that he missed a blitz pickup. You morons! You got 5 days in a week to watch that video and go over that with him. Embarrassing. No, I don't know that David Johnson is breaking out for any big yardage games anytime soon. The touchdown again saves his day last week. So I don't know if you guys saw that I put Corey Clement in over David Johnson in one lineup just to have some fun last week, and I posted it on Twitter. So naturally, all these people came out.
Fired from Fanball?
People called. No, Fanball likes those bold predictions. Fanball likes bold predictions. People coming out telling me, I was stupid, that was this. That was all right. He gets that touchdown, that 20-yard touchdown catch that saved his day. But aside from that, Corey Clement has a better day yardage-wise than him. The touchdown saves the day. So I'm going to put him back in there where I have him, and I own him only in one league where I have to make a lineup decision on a weekly basis. But until I see it, until I see some consistency, until I see them be afraid of Josh Rosen, no, I'm relying on touchdowns right now and the fact that maybe they start to line him up and go to him on the outside a little bit more.
I will just say real quick, with Josh Rosen coming in, he did have a nice preseason rapport with Christian Kirk, wide receiver there, with Larry Fitzgerald still nursing his hamstring a little bit. He might be worth a speculative add in a deeper league if you got a deeper roster, just to throw him on there and see what happens for a week and see if there's something there.
For a guy that wants to keep things moving along, you sure talk a lot about, nonsense.
It was like 10 seconds.
Browns and the Raiders, speaking of nonsense, they're going to play in Oakland.
0-4.
Baker Mayfield comes in on this one, and it's the other rookie quarterback to be getting his first start this week. And but what I really want to ask you about, Steve, is Carlos Hyde, who's been, honestly, he was great last week because he got you 98 yards and 2 touchdowns. The 2 touchdowns make it look much better. But he's been pretty good this year, and he's getting a lot of the touches. And I think, Nick Chubb hasn't really done anything. Duke Johnson's really hasn't been used. With Mayfield coming in, do you think they focus on the passing game this week, or do you think there's going to be enough for Hyde to get some volume?
Like I said, I do think the Browns are actually going to win this game. The Raiders are favored by 3 points, which I'm not sure that they should really be favored by any against anybody right now. So I think that the Browns, if things go the way that I would think so, which means it's going to happen the exact opposite. I think the Browns will have enough opportunity and enough. The game flow will dictate that Hyde gets a lot of work. That touchdown rate is not going to continue. Obviously, 4 touchdowns in 3 games not going to happen. But I really don't see him not getting a touchdown this week. And I think that he's going to be able to get a lot of carries, and he's going to turn that into good yardage. So I think Carlos Hyde has at least another week of continuing this. I don't think the Browns with Mayfield in there abandon the run game if they don't have to. If Hugh Jackson can run the ball, he will run the ball. And I think that's going to be a very viable for them this week.
Sal, it looked like you were going to say something, but I'm going to cut you off and move over to the Raiders anyway, even if you did have something to say about the Browns. Amari Cooper is abysmal, and your
that was polite.
I have a lot of Amari Cooper in many, many places as well, and it's really, really depressing me. It's actually worse than Corey Davis and Allen Robinson. Although Cooper did have the one big game. What are you doing with Cooper? Are you taking him out of your lineup?
Kevin, I don't know if you heard me Saturday morning on Fanball Weekly with Scott Fish on Sirius Satellite Radio, but Scott brought up this game. He referred to them as my Oakland Raiders, which they are no longer my Oakland Raiders.
See, I still feel as though that's temporary. I don't know. I feel like they'll come back.
It's my team. It's my team. I can't root for them right now. Watching them, by the way, I saw this stat, not trail at any point in any third quarter all year, at any point in the first 3 quarters, and then be outscored like 34-3 in the fourth quarter and lose all 3 games. It actually brings me joy to see that happening to John Gruden. I'm willing to sacrifice these years to prove.
Wait, can I digress? Because you know what I don't get, Sal? It's not like, the Raiders when in the 70s, 80s maybe were good, but it's not I
was a Raider fan in the 80s. I was a boy, just a young lad.
My point being, it's not like they're a really like top-notch franchise. I mean,
all right, Kevin, I'm picking the microphone up now. Kevin, we had turned things around. We had flushed out all the bad contracts, got out all the bad players, and we had brought in youth. We had infused the organization with youth. Al Davis had passed away, a maverick, a wonderful guy, but holding this team back from moving into this century. Things were going the right way. Jack Del Rio was in there. The players liked playing for him. Our quarterback broke his back. We had a tough year, down year after going 12-4. We fire the guy. We bring in this baboon. He brings in now the oldest roster in the entire NFL. By the way, did you see Old Man River last week? Jordy Nelson looked great. It's just I can't stand watching what he's done as team, and he literally looks befuddled on the sidelines, not knowing what's going on. The game is clearly passed him by, and it's year 1 of 10. It's tough to swallow. They've had, no, they don't have what the Patriots had now. They've had periods of time, pockets of time in different parts of decades where they were a better team. And we have somewhat of a history as far as the AFC goes, because there's a lot more history on the NFC side. But I just thought we were going in a different direction and we're turning things around. And now it's like, I got nothing to watch.
I can't wait to hear the music that Steve puts behind us. It's going to be so great. All right. So tell me about Amari Cooper then, because we've now taken way too much time.
Amari Cooper he's a tough case. He was covered by Xavier Howard last week, which is, a guy who's getting a ton of pub right now for the way he's just shutting people down in the NFL. So you got to realize he was covered man-to-man by one of the best in the NFL. So look at your matchups. He's still a wide receiver 2 on your team. And you got to put him in there because that 10-for-116 day could come. He's the best option in that offense. So I'm not giving up on him yet.
All right, I'm not either. I appreciate you re-energizing me, we'll say, I guess, to start him. But we're going to move along to the Saints and the Giants in New York. I'm going to go a little obscure here. We've talked about on the Saints side of the ball that it's Breeze, Kamara, and Thomas, and we know about them. You're not going to take them out of your lineup ever. Benjamin Watson had a good game last week, over 9 points finally. He's projected to get 6.1 in this one, Steve. Do you think that Watson is going to be a focal point, more of a focal point in the offense going forward, or is it an up and down thing and you got to kind of pick your spots still?
Yeah, I would definitely go up and down still with Watson. Basically, anybody outside of Kamara and Michael Thomas, those guys are just locked in with the amount of work that they're getting. And then Ingram coming in, I think he'll get a little bit, and he'll be someone that you can trust week to week as well. But with Ben Watson, I think that he just every week you can expect maybe a low end tight end 1 out of him, which is great. I mean, 6.1. It doesn't sound great, but for tight end this year, that is probably pretty low end tight end 1 week in and week out. So I think that's what you could expect from him. I wouldn't feel comfortable, but you could do a lot worse than Ben Watson. Basically any piece of the Saints offense has an opportunity to get 2 touchdowns every single week. So yeah, I think he is what he is. He's a low end tight end 1 with, mid range to high end tight end 1 upside.
All right, Sal, I can't ask Steve about the next guy because, it's guaranteed to be over. Sterling Shepard projected to get 10.7, had a great week last week. With Evan Ingram out, probably going to continue to see some additional targets. What are your thoughts on Sterling Shepard in this one and going forward?
No Rhett Ellison fans out there. Maybe Jarrell Adams finally gets a shot this week. No, I think this is a good week for Sterling. He wrote Rhett Ellison down on his paper. Wow. I didn't even know you know how to spell Rhett. I think it's a good week for Sterling Shepard. I think he got the opportunity to show up last week, and with Evan Ingram going down, he got to show a little bit more. This is a guy I thought in the offseason was in for a big year with Odell Beckham Jr. starting to pick up double coverage on the other side. So I'm going to go over for Sterling Shepard. I think he finds the end zone. I think that this is a matchup where you could even consider starting Eli Manning this year, because the Saints are back to being the old lovable play all your offensive players against the Saints. I don't know what's gone on with those cornerbacks over there, but it's a shootout every week. And I think the Saints will win it, but I think that the Giants will definitely put up some points in this game.
All right, so we will continue on then. The 49ers, unfortunately, will go to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. And I say unfortunate for them because they will be without Jimmy Garoppolo. CJ Beathard will be the starter there. Matt Breida, who's looked, up and down, but projected to get 10 points in this one, Sal. Is there any chance that anyone on the San Francisco offense does anything with Beathard in there this week?
The Chargers were expected to be a really top defense coming in this year. They haven't been what you would have expected. I'm gonna probably have to wait and see. I'd start Breida if he's healthy enough to play. Breida did leave a little banged up, or not leave, but come out of that game banged up, and he's limited in practice this week. But he's produced with the touches that he's gotten. He's been a better running back there, and then maybe Kittle. Outside of that, maybe those are the only 2 guys, depending on where I'm at, tight end wise on my roster, or what I could have picked up. Those 2 guys, boy, Goodwin came back, didn't have big yardage, but got the touchdown. He's a guy I was hoping for big things out of, especially in falafel this year. I don't know that I'm going to ever get to that point, but let's give Beathard, however you want to say, let's give him a chance. See if the kid's learned anything since he was in there last year. If he's come along, and it was a small sample size, so I'd like to see for a couple of weeks. Chargers are probably a tough matchup for this week, but yeah, I'll be interested to see going forward.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm probably not rolling out anybody from the 49ers offense this week. The Chargers are a good defense. They are giving up the 8th most points to fantasy running backs, so that's would be a good matchup. 185 yards through the air on 14 catches too. So you could see a little bit of volume in the passing game with the checkdowns for Beathard if he hasn't learned much. If he's still doing that this year, I do expect him to improve, but this is not the week to expect it. So I'm probably passing. Talk about the Chargers here now. Mike Williams has looked great this season, Steve. So far, I think he's finally starting to turn into the, first round wide receiver that we thought he might be. Do you expect that to continue, or do you think that he is going to see regression at some point?
I mean, I don't think he's going to keep up his touchdown pace that he's had so far. I think he has 3 touchdowns through these first 3 weeks, but I do think that you can expect a lot of production from him this weekend. Keenan Allen popped up on the injury report this week, so that's something that you definitely need to keep an eye on. The Chargers are a 10.5-point favorite in this game. So, the Vegas is expecting them to put up a lot of points. The 49ers have allowed 24 points or more in all 3 of the games that they have played so far this season. So they are leaking on the defense. A lot of teams scoring a lot of points against them. And now you've got Richard Sherman going to be out for this game. So, it's kind of shaping up to be kind of a perfect storm for Mike Williams to have a huge role and a lot of opportunity in the game where the Chargers team is expected to put up a lot of points. So I think he is a flex-worthy, maybe even borderline wide receiver 2 option this week, and he could continue to be that going forward. I think he is cementing his role as that wide receiver 2 in in Los Angeles. Excuse me. But I think it's going to be something you can rely on going forward.
We move along then to Sunday night football, and the Baltimore Ravens will travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. This game is always a little bit unpredictable. It is always physical and always, entertaining, at least in my opinion. In this one, I'm curious. We saw Alex Collins have a good game last week with the 68 and a touchdown. Buck Allen also gets a touchdown in that one. He's got a touchdown in all 3 games so far this year. But the guy I want to ask you about is Michael Crabtree. Coming into the season, I'm obviously a big John Brown fan, and you guys know that. But really? Michael Crabtree was a guy coming over from Oakland that I thought could make a little noise in this offense and would be a decent fit. He really hasn't produced a ton. I mean, 3 catches, 5 catches, and 7 catches. So the catch total's going up. The yardage total has been pretty stagnant, and he only has 1 touchdown in week 1, Sal. He is projected to get 9.7 in this one.
9 times.
Well, I would think he would need a touchdown to get there, because I saw a stat earlier today that said that I think this past week was the first time in 10 games dating back to last year that he went over 60 yards receiving. So he hasn't been getting a lot of yardage. And, they got the other tight end possibly coming back this week, the rookie and the tight ends. He's not coming back, Steve?
He's coming back to practice. They don't think he's going to play this week. It's probably going to be 1 more week for him.
All right, we still got the other rookie, right? That's.
I mean, they have 8 tight ends, so it doesn't,
That's right. They worked them all in. Javoris Allen and Alex Collins both catching passes, and John Brown getting a lot of work. Willie Snead has been very involved in this offense, so I just think that it's too spread out to rely on, 9 to 10 points on a weekly basis. You'll get it every once in a while from Crabtree, but guessing when is anybody's guess. Please,
John Brown, a little banged up coming into this week too. Showed up on the injury report today, so make sure you keep an eye on that. I don't know that you can drop him quite yet, but the Steelers also giving up the 2nd most points to fantasy wide receivers, so it's a great matchup if these guys play. Yep. So keep that in mind. All right, on the Steelers side of the ball, Antonio Brown. Steve, you're not taking Antonio Brown out of your lineup.
What?
But
Never.
Ever. But he hasn't really had that huge game. I mean, a decent week 1 with 9 catches, 93 yards, and a touchdown. 9 catches again in week 2, but no touchdown. And then last week, 6 for 50. Again, he gets you the touchdown to save the day, but he hasn't been Antonio Brown. They're spreading the ball around a ton.
Yeah, he is definitely not getting the vast target share that we are accustomed to seeing for him. And Juju Smith-Schuster has a lot to do with that. He has been phenomenal so far. See people ranking him higher than Antonio Brown, liking him more than Antonio Brown. He's put up over 100 yards all 3 of his games this season. So it's just there's more options there for Big Ben right now in the passing game. And Antonio Brown is, like you said, you're never going to not start him. You keep rolling him out there because those big games will come. He will have that 16-catch, 175-yard, 2-touchdown game that we've seen him have before. You can't be mad. You can't be mad at Antonio Brown. I'm not. Never will be.
I'm mad at Vance McDonald. I'm not even going to get into it.
So is Chris Conti. Put the guy on IR, for God's sakes.
Wow.
That was one of the greatest NFL plays I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah, did not help me at all.
How
In Scott
much did you
Fishbowl.
lose by, Kevin, as a result of your
I
performance?
ended up losing by like 3 points total, but I had a 22-point lead going into the night, figuring all I had to do was withstand a Vance McDonald night, and it just didn't work out for me. Ended up with like 25 points. But what are you gonna do? We move along to the Monday night game. The Kansas City Chiefs travel to Denver to take on Steve's Denver Broncos. Kareem Hunt only projected to get 12.7 points in this one. We're gonna start with you on this, Sal. Kareem Hunt's been salvaging his days, but he hasn't looked great. We've talked about it a little bit so far. What do you think in this one?
I think he's going to be right around that 12 to 13 point range. I think that he'll get opportunities inside the 5 to run the ball in for touchdowns. As you guys pointed out last night, as we pointed out previously, he's not seeing any targets. He's not catching any passes. I think the one catch he has for the year actually resulted in a touchdown. Crazy enough. But this offense is just clicking on all cylinders. Like Steve pointed out on that review show, they don't need to put the dump off passes to him because they could go downfield. But when they get downfield, and these guys have a tendency to get tackled, make that big play and get tackled inside the 10, that's when they turn a hunt. So I will say he'll go over this week.
All right, Steve. And on your side of the ball, the Denver Broncos have not been great.
They're 2-1, all right.
Well, I mean,
what are the Patriots at?
I meant from a fantasy perspective.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Let's settle down. Case Keenum looked terrible. Demaryius Thomas is projected to get 11.2 in this one. Outside of week 1 where he had 15.3, mostly from a touchdown, he has not really looked great. He's, his max is 6 catches in week 1, has 5 each of the last 2 weeks. Can he get over that 11.2 and start to be a more productive wide receiver?
I think he will get over it this week because I think that Denver's going to have to try and keep pace with this Kansas City offense. So there's going to be a lot of throws, a lot of targets to go around. I think he'll, inch up there. I think he can get into the end zone yet again. But I think a lot of people kind of saw this coming as the season got closer and closer, that Emmanuel Sanders was going to be the guy that you really wanted to target from this offense. I still like Demaryius Thomas, but his floor has definitely seemed to go to the wayside a little bit. And it doesn't seem like he's doing as much on the field as these other guys. We know Cortland Sutton's getting on the field and has been on the field a lot more. He hasn't gotten any touchdowns yet, although he's a big red zone target for them. I think he actually gets into the end zone this week. But yeah, I think 11 points right around there for Demaryius Thomas. I think he can get just over that. I think there's going to be a lot of points to be scored for both offenses on this Monday night game.
All right, that's it. We've gone through everything. Unless you guys have anything else to say, Steve, you can wrap it up.
Oh my God, we made it. We did all of it in time. Amazing. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Fantasy Football Funhouse. You can find us on Twitter at FF Funhouse. You can find us on Facebook and on Instagram and at fantasyfootballfunhouse.com. And that's it. Sal.
Thank you to everybody that reached out to me in private and said that they missed me on the show. Don't let Steve and Kevin know.
No one's not a single person that did that.
Thank you to Matthew Berry for congratulating me on continuing to work with these two guys after 3 years. To Steve and Kevin, great job to you guys. Always holding down the fort. It's always fun to do the show. I miss it when I'm not here. Happy to be back tonight with you fellers. That's it, guys.
All right.
He didn't even mention how he writes at fanball.com.
Yeah, that's the first time. First time.
I'm impressed.
You don't know how I do.
Make sure you check out Sal at fanball.com. I hear he's got a writer's page and everything, so you can check that out.
It's an author's page, Kevin.
Author's page. Oh, I'm sorry. Author. I didn't know you were an author. It just sounds so pretentious.
Neither did I.
Author.
He's not.
I just want to remind everyone to add a charitable aspect to their fantasy playing experience. Donate. Get involved with a community project, do whatever you need to do to get your league mates involved with something that makes someone else's day better. Again, still pinned to my profile on my Twitter, which is at Kevin Cotillo. You can find the GoFundMe for our buddy Corey's family. Check that out if you have a few extra bucks to throw his way. His family lost everything in Hurricane Florence, and they would really appreciate it. So we will be back next week to talk about everything that happened this weekend, and I will recap the Patriots game from the stands. So until then, we'll talk to you later.